Welcome to r/Hong Kong on my YouTube channel, where I get to explain to you some of the uniquely bizarre things that happen in Hong Kong and some of the basic do's and don'ts. But first, an upgrade of my camera. I wanted to do one of those Casey Neistat clicks of the fingers and everything changes, but in the time it took me to set up the camera, figure out that the microphone didn't work, it got dark outside, and then I had to change the lighting setup, so it looks very dramatically different. Anyway, on with this episode of r/Hong Kong. To begin with, we're going to talk about chickens. And if you do come to Hong Kong for a holiday and you come across this dish, don't take it too literally. Because even in Hong Kong, translations can go a little bit awry. Though they are less obvious, although the ones in Japan that you probably more commonly can see are more of a general mistake when it comes to translating Japanese into English. Sometimes translations in Hong Kong are either a literal translation or they ignore current contemporary usage amongst English speakers, as Zaworth explains. Translating it using the British definition of the word rooster, I've never heard of it used in Cantonese, but in Mandarin, to some Chinese words, or da-da-da can also mean da-da-da. Zaworth does go on to say, however, that it's pretty interesting how both Chinese and English both ended up using chicken, rooster, and other types of words as a slang for the male member. How did that come about from an etymological point of view? Why not snake or some other phallic animal instead? It makes no sense. That food, however, does look really tasty. I might have to try myself some big cock. And while we're on the subject of things that are foul, aside from that pun, don't blow on the bottom of your chickens. Wait, what? Is this another translation snafu? Let's check that Food and Environmental Hygiene Department notice one more time. To prevent avian influenza, okay, that checks out. Cook the food properly, okay. Wash hands, okay. Don't touch the chickens, their feces, or blow on their bottoms. No, actually, this is not a mistranslation, and you would be forgiven for thinking so. Blowing on chickens' bottoms is actually a thing in Hong Kong. Very ninja states, yup, by looking at the bottom, they can tell have the chicken ever laid eggs before. If it has never laid eggs, it means it's young and the meat is more tender. Sam Punk also adds, yes, it is a thing. Not crappy translation, not Chinglish. When Chinese pick live chicken, they look at butt to check the quality. And let's go to this YouTube video at the 28-second mark.
健康雞嚟㗎啦，通常咧個屁股附近冇咁多毛咧，我哋睇到佢黃油定白油。
玲姐話。
There we are. Or more interestingly, you've seen this happen in a Hollywood movie, in Rush Hour 2.
I don't want no chicken.
Fun fact, when Chris Tucker walks up to the lady and she asks him if he's okay and he says,
"Hello, how are you?"
Okay.
okay means that you actually want to have a chicken. Talk about grammatical context and accuracy and then using it for humour. Mind is blown. Moving on, let me share a meme with you that actually has some basis in reality behind it. This one was doing the rounds regarding how frustrating it is to get on board and off board a train in Hong Kong. There's very little room on the train. Yes. You want to get inside. Yes. You can't get inside if there's no room. That makes sense? So let the passengers come out first. No. Having lived here for nearly 7 years, this almost literally, figuratively happens every single time I want to catch the train. People will run and get on those trains as quickly as possible, even though there's another train coming in about 45 seconds. They've got to have that one. And they are going to try and get on as other people try and get off. Now, if that's not bad enough, there are people on board said trains who have to wear their backpacks on their back. They don't put it by their feet. They insist on wearing them here. And if you ask them to take the bag off their back, they don't understand why you're asking them to do that. They don't get it. Now, even on the few occasions where I've approached people and said, take your bag off your back, they look at me like I'm a dummy, or they take it off, but they aren't quite sure really as to why they have to take it off still. And one time I asked a guy to take his bag off his back because it's busy, and he said, no, because the train's busy. Yeah, that's my reason for it. And yes, if you're curious, we do have train announcers who actually inform us of the correct behaviours. And my thoughts are exemplified by this comment. I love it when people are absolutely dumbfounded when you eventually push them out of the way. It's almost as their brains are wired differently. Yeah, that's another thing. People tend to hang around the door rather than get inside the train, and you're trying to get past them to get inside the train, and they don't seem to want to budge. It's like they've never used the MTR before. Some people are just weird. And finally, speaking of weird behaviors, but weird behaviors that can be explained, it's quite common on r/Hong Kong to have tourists who have visited Hong Kong or are going to visit Hong Kong, and they have questions about new behaviors that they've never encountered before. Are they homeless? No. They're just one of the few out of, say, 300,000 domestic workers that are living here, and then they all practically take their day off on the same day and congregate wherever there is enough space for them to sit down and enjoy their day off. Many of them will create these sort of playpens for themselves to section their own little turf off from others, so that one, maybe their personal belongings won't get as lost, and two, to create a sense of space so that they can enjoy themselves on this day. In that photo currently, they're on a walkway. Why are they on a walkway? That's because all of Hong Kong's parks can't accommodate them. And when I say all, remember, I said 300,000 domestic workers from the country of the Philippines and Indonesia. And looking at population trends from the census information, Indonesian and Philippine workers make up basically the fastest growing segments of the population here in Hong Kong. And that means if there's more of them, where are they going to go? Now, it would make sense to have a staggered day off during the 7 days of any given week, but that's a fantasy land because most nannies are looking after children when the parents are at work, and so the only time off they can probably get is going to be either a Saturday or, most commonly, the Sunday. So everyone has to have their day off for the most part on a Sunday, thereby making it look like we have huge squatter encampments in the city and in our government parks. And it highlights an interesting side effect of employing hundreds of thousands of foreign workers to another country and then not having enough amenities to look after them. 493 says, domestic helpers enjoying their only day off together. They have nowhere else to go, so they sit on the streets and have fun. This literally comes up every week. And he's referring to the fact that people keep posting on the subreddit about this behavior, when really you could just ask these people as to why they're sitting on the floor, which can seem a little bit weird, but hold on a second. The PK boy writes, probably could have just asked them. From what I've been told, they don't mind chatting with people as long as you're not being a douche. That's an aspect of travelling that's often overlooked, talking to the population. Now for Hong Kongers, when we see all these people sitting on the streets, we tend to put it in the back of our minds. We know why they're there, but generally tourists don't, and they are coming to the subreddit for a bit of education. However, looking at this one photo alone, they're clearly not homeless, so there would be no sort of insult if you ask them, why are you here? Especially if you preempt the question by saying, hi, I'm a tourist, I've never seen this before. Is there some kind of event happening? Domestic workers are of course entirely friendly and will host such questions, and they won't see it as an insult to their way of life. So the takeaway from this is, it's probably better to engage with such strangers and find out someone else's way of life living in a foreign country that you're probably never going to see again anyway, unless you really have fallen in love with Hong Kong and the rest of Asia. It's better than just texting someone on a Reddit group, or it's entirely much better than just listening to someone on their YouTube channel explain it to you.